Okay, namaste everybody. Thank you for joining in first of all and taking out this time for me and to listen to what I have to say. My experiences and my approach to how I view this wonderful dance form that I have had the chance to be associated with. Um, as is traditional in dance, I begin with seeking the blessings of my gurus, Pandit Birju Maharaj and Guru Shobna Narayan, and by taking ijazat from all of you wonderful viewers, um, for listening to me and being here. So I'd like to just show you a little clip, and I want to ask you a couple of questions before you watch this clip that you can just keep in mind. I know we can't interact at this point, but just think about, like, and they're very simple questions. One is that, have you heard of a character called Devaki? And is it a story that you're familiar with? Do you know what happened with her and what her life story is? Another question is, can you identify when you see the clip? I know I'm speaking about it, but say I wasn't. Would you be able to identify what dance form is being used to convey her story? And also, can you tell me, or can you tell, not me actually, but can you tell when the characters are changing in the duration of that clip? So, if we can play that clip now, I'd just like you to keep these things in mind and we can proceed with the talk after the clip. So, this is a story that a lot of people might be familiar with from one perspective, right? But the narrative, did it make you think? Did it make you think about a different perspective? You may want to argue with it, you may not agree with it, but it's another way of looking at what is a very famous old story from Indian mythology. It's a really, really ancient story coming from the Mahabharata, from the Bhagavad Puran, ancient sacred texts in India. And it's being portrayed in a dance form that is also from pretty much that same time because Kathak dates back almost 2500 years. And if you think about it, it's relevant even today because let's not think of the text or the characters' names and something. But if I was to retell this story and then just say that there was a loving brother, his name was Kans. Kans was very fond of his cousin sister, so fond of her that despite being such a powerful and wealthy king, to celebrate her marriage, he drives her himself on the chariot. The bride and groom, the bridal party is taken by him, to their palace, and he's so happy about it. He's really really is a very loving brother. But then there is some sort of Akashvani, a voice from the sky which comes. In some stories, there's also Narad Muni. And Narad Muni comes, or Akashvani says, that, this, her child, her eighth child, is going to be the cause of your death. And Kans is a person who is of a feeble and clearly, not firm-minded, and he's very prone to, people's influences or influences from outside. He listens to this story, and that all that love disappears, and he decides to immediately take his sword out and attack her and kill her so that like he can just finish off with the whole thing for fear of his life. to save your life. I mean, a lot of people may do this, but if it's of a feeble. So, what I'm saying is that the characters here are just representative of people that may exist. There is also a woman here whose voice is not being heard in the bargain that is made between the brother and the husband. That the husband is then goes to the brother and says that, look, take away all the children. And the husband is doing it out of love. You take away all the children, you kill all the children, but let her live. Now, for anyone who identifies with the maternal feeling, I won't even say as a mother, because a mother obviously would be enraged, but you would rather give your own life than have see 8 of your children die, right? Like, it's not a process. So it's a take that I thought, and I read the Bhagavad. I read, what it says about the story, and the only mention of her is that she was a sati stri, like a very pure woman, and all the gods reside in her. So she is a very pure, very now all the gods reside in you. Even if you look at it, it's divinity inside yourself. You're a very powerful person. Now, how does a person like this get no mention? Is not, doesn't speak herself, doesn't nobody asks her, like all this story just unfolds. Now, see, all these stories have a message, but what I'm trying to say is that we are allowed to make a story relevant to what our thoughts are and to present it in a way that we feel appropriate to the time and the context. And if we don't do that, then we will end up alienating ourselves from not only whatever is current in society, but we will also alienate ourselves from where we're coming from. And using text like this, and not using, but using my dance as a language to convey this, is my way of bringing it out in a different manner to people who may not otherwise follow the story, or people who are familiar with it have a different perspective on it, right? There are many interpretations to a literal narrative, and while thinking of dancing to it, the idea is not just to be ornamental or decorative. It should give, in my opinion, a suggestion of something that is beyond the obvious, and a suggestion that strikes a chord and resonates with the now. I'm a person who's educated in LSR. I was just hearing the talk about Lady Sri Ram, highly a feminist bent of thought, and somehow these thoughts came from there because you come from your education and your experience and your exposure. So this is how I looked at it. So I could take a view that patriarchy was at play, where a woman's voice was not heard. But for another person, it could mean that she should have made herself heard, right? For a third person, gender is not an issue; it's just an attitude problem. I mean, what's wrong with these, women? And for another person, if this is sacred text, you can't tamper with it, although our texts always ask you to question and always ask you to interpret and look at things. So there are many interpretations, right? The idea of art is to evoke something and to make one think. Like, if you, whether it's a visual art or a performing art, you can't, it's a thing of beauty, yes, but it should also make you, it should provoke you into some thought, negative, positive, for it. You may dislike it, you don't have to like it, but it should stir something in the artist as well as in the spectator, and that is the intention generally when you perform. There was a message for me in Devki's character. She stood for something more than the obvious, and because the obvious is so taken for granted, the layers can sometimes get neglected, which is why I thought to pick up this subject. Like, she's not Sita, she's not Radha. These are very popularly, even Yashoda, for the matter, Krishna's other mother. But Devaki's story, I felt, was not really, hadn't been told adequately, and it took me a lot of time actually to research and find enough on it also to be able to perform it. So I try to do this with most of my work now because in my experience with performing, not in my classroom scenario, but when I perform, in my experience, there is a huge disconnect now. Like, we are dealing now with a time when audiences are finding dances like Kathak hyper technical or boring, or in their perception they don't even know. Like, for example, like, audiences today may not even, a lot of people will say, use Bharatnatyam and Kathak interchangeably, and you say, oh, you're a dancer, okay, then you do Bharatnatyam, oh, okay, no Kathak. So it for them, there's no difference in that, and it's nobody's fault, because the exposure that needs to happen from an early age in order to realize these things is not happening at the right time, right? And all of us need to participate in making that change now. So I would like to show you another clip where I have used, and I don't tamper with anything that breaks down the. I mean, I don't go outside the boundaries of Kathak. That is what I'm learning, and I just try and use it in places where I feel the technique can also speak of the narrative, and the narrative can fit into the technique. So I'd like to show you another clip from a Kathak presentation of mine, which was on Mahatma Gandhi, and called Champaran Se Bahu, and just have a look at that and then I'll explain further. As visuals go in this one, you saw a dancer. For anyone who understands a little bit more about Indian dance, it's a Kathak dancer. For someone who knows Nritta aspects, it's a footwork piece. For someone who's a connoisseur or who's like steeped in it or learning it, you'll say it's a Ladi, right? It doesn't matter which category you belong to. The idea is that you experience something. Now, if I add a narrative, what am I trying to show in this? Obviously, I can't show you the whole presentation, but what I was trying to convey in this is in this narrative, and I quote from my presentation here, where I said that the sound of the approaching train on the tracks can be heard from a distance. Picking up pace and coming to a stop in Motihari, Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi takes his first step on the historical land of Champaran. Now, my idea to use the footwork was to build up and then bring down to the point where you can feel the train approaching in an abstraction. It should sound like a train with the sound of the ghungroos. Now, it's a very technical aspect of Kathak, but I felt it could convey that meaning. And then you end with Satyamev Jayate, which for anyone who understands anything about Gandhi is one of his favorite hymns. So it's a direct association with him that something wonderful has happened, or someone really great has appeared on the scene. And this is almost at the beginning of my presentation. So this is another instance of how I try and combine. I mean, we can't go into the relevance of Gandhi right now because that will take a lot of time. But that's so you don't have to tamper with the shape of the form, and you don't have to also over-educate the audience at this point. I feel because they should tie into the aesthetic and feel close to the subject or feel close to what is happening in it. It's not something that's happening in outside of ourselves. So which is why I used a technical aspect and I used it to portray this person. Now another thing is that the use of platforms is also sort of very interesting, because I did a presentation during, I don't think we have enough time to show you that now, but I did this campaign called Stillness in Motion, which was shot during the lockdown for this lifestyle brand called Good Earth. And I did a very technical nuanced piece, and it was based on the Tat Ang in Kathak. For those who know, it's called the method of standing. The way of standing comes from Tat Bat. Like it's a very delicate but very difficult part to do. And then we did it on this platform. I had to do a 2-minute video. Essentially, now in this clip, it's very slow, very languid, languorous movements. That is a very technical aspect of Kathak, which even today in recitals, like Kathak dancers are performing in the traditional format, or I mean traditional for lack of a better word. This is getting sort of ignored in the fast pirouettes and footwork and all of that. But this is actually very difficult, and I mean still a work in progress. But I thought that platform like Good Earth, which has such a great aesthetic, will be able to deal with it really well, and they did such a great job. I had the freedom to create with them, and we put it, and it got, like, in 24 hours, I think, some 50,000 views. So which means that the taste, the audience, the interest, it's all there. It's just that we need to connect it together. We need to connect our performance to them wanting to see it. Like once people see it, then they realize that there's something more to it. And it's a thing of beauty, right? If you make a painting, or if you see a painting that you like, you can just like it without knowing what the intricacies are. And maybe if you care enough, eventually you will find out what the material is made of, is what color, then you go into the details. So that's how I like to think about it when I am doing something new for for an audience. And I think it's important now to connect the audience. If we don't do that, then we are somewhere losing out on the place that Indian arts deserve in society, in our own society. The 4th century BC to 18th century was like the golden age of Indian civilization, right? We are not in that state now. We are not in the stage where there are rustics. We are, getting rote based. We are following a Western aspiration. We need to somehow bring back, keeping the good of that. We need to bring back that fact that we need to give a place to our arts that they truly deserve. Because if it gets restricted to just a few people here or there who enjoy it, it eventually will peter down. It's not going to die. Like it stood the test of time and it's like gone over it. But just to bring it back to its former glory and just the great just the wealth of knowledge, of information. Like we're chasing after spirituality, fitness, understanding our texts. It brings everything, a pride in our languages, a pride in our history, a pride in where we come from. Be original, connect to your culture, be proud of who we are. I mean, wear the clothes with pride, speak the language with pride, and do everything that's possible with it. Connect with the arts, and it will give you a wealth of knowledge and enjoyment, happiness being the ultimate aim. So, thank you so much. And